Well, I'm glad you asked that question. The European audience needs to understand that this Monroe Doctrine was mentioned briefly by President Monroe and then vanished for all intents and purposes from the discussion politically in Washington or anywhere else until the 1920s. It was resurrected in the 1920s because we had participated in the First World War, and virtually everyone concluded by the 1920s that had been a terrible mistake, that all we did was rescue British and French imperialism. We lost 110,000 dead in 110 days of fighting on the Western Front. People were horrified. And so President Harding and his successors in the 20s all said, we don't want to do this again. This is the last thing we ever want. And so the Monroe Doctrine came back into vogue or into usage then. And then we developed a strategy called hemispheric defense. And that essentially said, we're going to defend the hemisphere from everybody outside of it, so don't challenge us here. Now, having said all of that, I don't think it's very meaningful now at all. I think that's another sort of shibboleth resurrected to persuade people of something that's not really a problem. Glenn, we in North America, we the United States, have dominated the Western Hemisphere almost from the moment that we won the War of 1812. I mean, once the British pulled out after they had another war without any strategy. It didn't work out very well for them. And so they said the devil with this and largely pulled out. I think what we're dealing with right now is something similar. It's there. When we talk about, again, it's back to strategy. There is no strategy. Now, do we want the Chinese out? Well, that's become very popular. Anywhere you see Chinese evidence for Chinese business or commercial interest, that's a threat. That has to be stopped. That has to be crushed. Nobody has passed any legislation inside the United States preventing the Chinese from investing and owning great quantities of agricultural land in the U.S. And I always tell people, well, if you're very concerned about the Chinese, let's start at home here, as opposed to telling everyone else who lives in the Western Hemisphere you can't do business with the Chinese. And here's a message for everybody. The Chinese are heavily engaged all over South America. And the Chinese are basically businessmen. They are there to get something. They want something, whether it's soybeans, which they recently managed to get from places like Argentina and Brazil, or they're looking for mineral wealth, or oil or anything else. If they can't get it from Venezuela, they're not going to go to war. They're going to go somewhere else.